It began on a quiet morning. The sun had just begun to rise over the broken horizon, casting a soft orange glow across the shattered rooftops of what was once a vibrant city. Birds no longer sang. The roads, once filled with the rhythm of everyday life, lay silent and still, like a frozen photograph from another time. In the center of the ruined city, hidden behind the barricaded walls of an abandoned broadcasting station, 100 survivors gathered around a weak but functioning radio. Among them stood Mara Hale, once a radio journalist, now the group's leader. Her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted the dial, searching for the mysterious signal that had interrupted the silence last night. A voice had come through, broken, distorted, but clear enough to deliver one message. "This is Haven Point. If you're alive, come. You're not alone." Mara looked around at the faces illuminated by the flickering light of a solar-powered lantern. They were tired, all of them, exhausted from running, hiding, and surviving. But in their eyes flickered something she hadn't seen in weeks. Hope. "It might be a trap," said Joel, a mechanic with oil-streaked hands and a skeptical mind. "Or worse, a lure from the infected. We've all seen how smart they're getting." "They don't send radio signals," Mara replied, her voice steady. That was a human voice. "And if there's even a chance there's something out there, a place where this madness hasn't won, we owe it to ourselves to find it." A murmur of agreement rippled through the room, though many still hesitated. Leaving the station meant moving through dead territory, streets littered with the remnants of lives abruptly ended, where silence wasn't peace, but a trap. A boy no older than 12, Cody, clutched his backpack tightly. "We can't stay here forever," he whispered, more to himself than anyone else. "We'll disappear like the others if we do." No one responded. They all knew he was right. 2 months ago, the first outbreak began. A strange illness with no warning signs. Victims turned violent within hours, not sick, not dying, just changed. The city collapsed within days. Police disappeared. Hospitals went dark. Then came the silence, not a lack of noise, but the kind that settled over everything when humanity retreated. The infected were not mindless. That was the most terrifying truth they had learned. Some could mimic voices, others watched from a distance, waiting, learning. They were not just predators, they were evolving. So, when that signal came, it shattered the stillness like a hammer to glass. "We vote," Mara said. "At dawn. We decide together." Night fell like a curtain of ash. Guards took turns on the roof while the rest tried to sleep. Mara sat near the window, watching the stars blink behind the smoke-stained sky. She remembered her old life, morning news segments, coffee in a paper cup, the hum of traffic, all gone. She wondered how many others were left. Maybe Haven Point was real. Maybe others were hearing the same call. Or maybe this was humanity's final test, the choice to act or fade into silence. At dawn, the survivors gathered once more. Mara stood tall, her fingers clutching a folded map of the city. A route had been marked, one that avoided open streets and led through underground tunnels, old subway lines, and burned-out zones. It was dangerous, yes. But survivable, if they moved as one. "Who's in?" she asked. Hands rose. "Not all, but most." Joel nodded reluctantly. "If we're doing this, we do it smart." "I'll pack the medical kits," said Iris, a former nurse. "We'll need lookouts." "Scouting teams ahead," added Theo, a university student turned strategist. Slowly, the pieces fell into place. Plans were made. Supplies gathered. Children were paired with guardians. The group took one last walk through the station, remembering the walls that had kept them safe, and trapped, for 2 months. When they opened the heavy metal doors, the air smelled like old fire and dust. The city loomed before them, half swallowed by overgrowth and time. But for the first time in weeks, the survivors didn't see ruins. They saw a path. The signal had given them more than direction. It had given them a reason to move, to fight not with weapons but with resolve. This was not just an escape. This was a choice, to be more than victims of a lost world. As the sun broke through the haze, they began their march. Somewhere far ahead, Haven Point waited. The city above groaned in silence, but below it, in the veins of rusted train lines and dripping stone, the survivors marched on. The map Mara carried was wrinkled, stained, and out of date, but it was their best shot. The old subway system stretched beneath the city like a forgotten skeleton, and it was safer than walking the open streets, where windows held empty eyes and every shadow whispered danger. Joel led the way, flashlight in hand, its beam cutting a thin line through the dusty dark. Behind him came Theo and Iris, then Mara, then the rest, a long line of hushed breath and careful steps. Even the children didn't speak. They had been trained in silence, taught that one wrong sound could bring the dead crashing down on them like a wave. "Watch the third rail," Joel warned, stepping over a tangle of broken wires. "Some of these tunnels were rigged after the outbreak. Don't assume they're dead." They passed old posters peeling off the walls, faded ads for forgotten concerts, movies no one would ever see. A rat scurried by, but even that was a rare sound these days. The infected had chased out nearly everything that once moved freely in these tunnels. Iris paused at a junction, checking a faded spray-painted mark on the wall, 2 white arrows and a circle, one of the old resistance symbols. "People used to come through here," she murmured. "Before everything went quiet." Mara stepped up beside her. "Then someone might have made it out. Or they didn't," Joel added flatly. "Don't let signs of the past distract us from the now." The group kept moving, passing collapsed stairwells and train cars frozen in place. Every now and then, they stopped to listen. The sound of feet. A breath. Anything unnatural. But it wasn't a sound that made them freeze this time, it was a smell. Burnt air. Like plastic and rotted meat mixed together. Faint, but growing stronger. Cody, walking near the middle of the group, tugged at Mara's sleeve. "It smells like when we found that building, the one with the black walls." Mara nodded grimly. She remembered. A medical center overtaken by a strange infection. Not just decay, something darker. Something that moved differently. Thought differently. "We keep going," she said. "But faster. Stay close." They pushed forward, the air thickening as the tunnel narrowed. Water dripped from the ceiling in slow, steady plinks. A soft scraping echoed ahead, too faint to place. Theo raised his hand, signaling a stop. Joel crept ahead, flashlight pointed downward. It caught something on the ground. Claw marks. Not human. Not animal. Deep, erratic grooves dragged across the floor and into the shadows ahead. "Could be an infected nest nearby," Joel whispered. Mara crouched, tracing one groove with her gloved finger. "Fresh," she said. "Maybe only hours old." That changed everything. If the infected were down here, if they had figured out how to use the tunnels too, their safe route just became a trap. "We double back?" Iris asked. Theo shook his head. "Too late. We've already committed. Turning around now could get us surrounded." "Then we need eyes in both directions," Mara decided. "Theo and Cody, rear guard. Joel, Iris, come with me. We scout ahead. Quiet and fast." The group broke into units. Those who stayed behind were instructed to stay hidden and wait for a signal. Cody gripped his flashlight tightly, standing beside Theo near a rusted metal gate. "Do you think they're watching us?" Cody asked. Theo didn't answer at first. Then, softly, "I think we're not alone." "So yes, eyes open." Up front, Joel's flashlight landed on a tunnel split, left side blocked by rubble, right side open but darker than pitch. "I don't like this," he said. Iris reached into her bag, pulling out a small, silent flare. She cracked it, releasing a dim blue light. It rolled into the dark tunnel ahead, stopping near a wall covered in handprints, dozens of them. Some large. Some child-sized. All blackened with soot. Mara stared. "What is this?" "They were here," Iris whispered. "People. They must have tried to hide down here." Joel motioned them forward quickly. "We need to get the others and move. Now." But before they turned back, a sound broke the air, soft, metallic. Like nails on iron. It echoed once. Then silence. Then again, closer. Mara's heart thudded. She pulled her radio, clicking it twice. The signal for return. No reply. 3 clicks. Urgent. Still nothing. Joel looked at her, face pale. "We're cut off." Behind them, in the dim light, a shadow moved, wrong in shape, wrong in motion. They had been found. And whatever was out there had been waiting. Panic whispered through the tunnel long before any words were spoken. Mara gripped her radio tighter, her thumb trembling over the signal button. 3 clicks, urgent, critical, should have brought a response. But the line stayed dead. No static, no reply. Just the thick silence that now felt more dangerous than any scream. Behind them, the shadow was gone. No footsteps, no growls, nothing. But they all knew something had moved. Joel swung his flashlight behind them, the beam catching only stone and dripping pipes. Either it's gone, or it's waiting. Mara's mind raced. They were trained for emergencies. Every member of the group had a buddy. They had mapped escape routes, fallback positions, emergency flares. But nothing ever feels real until the plan meets the unknown. "We get back to the group now," she said. "No more waiting." They turned to run, not recklessly, but fast and quiet. The same route they came through now felt unfamiliar. The spray-painted symbol was missing. The junction wall had fresh markings scratched into it, 4 parallel lines, like claws. Mara blinked. Had they taken a wrong turn? "I don't like this," Iris whispered. "None of this makes sense." "It's not supposed to," Joel muttered. "That's the trap." They turned the next corner, and stopped cold. The corridor where they'd left the others was empty. No Theo. No Cody. No soft flashlight glow. No sound. Just an eerie flicker of light coming from deeper ahead, like a lantern swinging slowly. "Cody!" Mara called out before she could stop herself. Her voice bounced through the tunnel like a mistake. Joel grabbed her arm. "Quiet. If they're hiding, yelling won't help." "But what if they're not hiding?" she shot back. Iris stepped closer to the wall and noticed something that chilled her blood. "Look." A smear, faint but fresh, across the concrete. Not blood. Not dirt. Something black and sticky, like tar. It trailed from where the group had been waiting and led down another path, not the way they had come, but deeper into the tunnels. "They were taken," Iris said. "No," Mara whispered. "They were moved." Same thing. They had no choice. If there was any chance the others were alive, they had to follow. But every step forward felt like sinking deeper into a place not meant for humans. The tunnel narrowed, ceiling dipping lower, the air growing warmer and fouler. The flickering light grew closer. Mara reached into her jacket and pulled out a mirrored shard, something they had all been trained to carry. She held it up and used it to angle her view around the upcoming turn. What she saw made her step back. 10 feet ahead, suspended from the ceiling by cords and wire, was one of their missing lanterns. It swung gently, casting irregular shadows across the walls. Below it, a trail of shoes. A child's sneaker. An adult boot. All placed carefully. Like a message. "They're trying to rattle us," Joel said, stepping ahead. "Trying to play with our heads." Iris disagreed. "No. This feels like a test." Mara suddenly froze. A faint sound, rhythmic. Breathing? She pointed toward a small maintenance closet tucked into the wall. Joel approached it cautiously, flashlight pointed low. He reached for the handle, paused, then opened it quickly. Inside, curled up behind old mop buckets, was Cody. His eyes were wide, lips sealed tightly, but when he saw Mara, he broke down. Not loudly, not screaming, just a soft sob into her chest as she pulled him out. They took Theo," Cody whispered. "He told me to hide. Said he saw something crawling on the ceiling." "Did you see what it was?" Mara asked. Cody shook his head. "Only eyes. Big ones. No face." Mara exchanged a glance with Joel and Iris. There were stories, whispers passed between survivor camps. Of a strain of the infected that didn't chase you in packs. Ones that watched. Waited. Chose who to take and when. Theo had faced it alone to save the boy. "We move. Now," Mara ordered. Same direction they went. "We stay tight, and no more splitting up." They followed the trail again, this time with Cody between them, every footstep a gamble. The tunnels had become something else, not just routes, but a maze. And the survivors? Rats inside it. Joel led them through a collapsed section where they had to crawl beneath a steel beam. Just beyond it, the tunnel opened into a wide station chamber, abandoned for decades, judging by the cracked tile and rusted rails. And there, across the empty space, something moved. Mara raised her hand to stop everyone. In the far shadow stood a figure. Not rushing. Not snarling. Just standing. Then it turned and vanished into the darkness. But as it left, they heard something. A voice, soft, distant, but unmistakably human. "Help me. Theo?" Hope surged. But so did the trap. "Help me." The voice echoed through the vast, cracked chamber like a memory coming back wrong. Faint, uneven, as though dragged across broken glass. But to Mara, it sounded close enough to be real. She took a single step forward, heart pounding. "Stop," Joel said, grabbing her shoulder. "You heard the stories. They use voices now. They echo them. Twist them. But what if it's Theo?" she whispered. Cody looked up at her, his face pale, trembling. That sounded like him. "I think." Joel wasn't convinced. "Sounding like him isn't enough. We move without knowing, we walk into their arms." Iris stayed silent, eyes fixed on the far wall. She squinted, trying to spot movement in the layered shadows. "What if it's both?" she said finally. "What if Theo's alive, but they're using him?" The question hung in the air like smoke. The chamber ahead had 3 exits, a stairwell choked with vines and rubble, a collapsed train tunnel filled with water, and a dark maintenance corridor, barely wide enough for one person at a time. The voice had come from that third path. "Let's vote," Joel said. "No time," Mara snapped. "We don't leave people behind." She turned to Cody. "Do you trust me?" He nodded quickly. "Then stay close. And quiet." They formed a line, Joel up front, then Mara with Cody, and Iris behind, covering their rear. One at a time, they slipped into the narrow passage, each footstep echoing like distant thunder. The corridor twisted, turned, narrowed more. Pipes lined the walls like exposed veins. Somewhere above, something groaned, like pressure shifting inside old bones. And always, that voice came again and again, just far enough ahead to stay out of reach. "Help me." Each time it repeated, it grew less human. The cadence was too perfect. The spacing between words too measured. And yet, it was Theo's voice. "Why is it calling us deeper?" Cody whispered. "Because it wants us separated," Joel answered. "It wants to split us off like it did before." But they kept moving. They had to. They weren't just hunting for survival anymore. They were hunting for answers. Finally, they reached a break in the wall, a gap that opened into a storage chamber with broken equipment and old lockers. A single overhead light flickered from a cracked solar battery rig. And in the center of the room, was a figure slumped against the wall. Theo. His jacket was torn. His ankle looked twisted. One eye swollen shut. But it was him. Mara rushed forward. "Theo." He lifted his head slowly. "It's me," he rasped. "You came." Joel kept his flashlight trained on the corners of the room, scanning. "How'd you get here?" "I don't know," Theo said. "Something knocked me down. I woke up here." Cody stepped forward. "You saved me." I didn't want to leave you." Theo gave a tired smile. "You did the right thing, kid." But something was off. Iris stood back, unmoving. Her hand hovered near her radio. "Say something only you'd know," she said. Theo frowned. "What?" "The code. The one from the first day we met," she pressed. "You made a joke. About the birds." His face twisted in confusion. I don't remember." "I do," she said. "You said they weren't birds, they were surveillance drones. Everything's watching now. Remember?" "I don't," his voice cracked. "I was hit hard. Then the lights died. Total darkness. Not even flashlight beams could cut through it, like the shadows themselves were alive." Joel shouted, "Stay together." Something brushed past Mara, soft, quick. Then again. A breeze? A presence? Then a voice, behind her ear, whispered. "You shouldn't have come." Cody screamed, and the lights flicked back on for a second, just enough for them to see the room was full of shapes now. Slender, crooked. Watching. Not charging. Not attacking. Just waiting. Theo's figure slumped again, and disappeared. Like dust crumbling into the ground. Mara grabbed Cody and ran. Joel and Iris followed, back the way they came. The hallway twisted again, but not the same. It was longer now. The path they had entered through was gone. They were trapped. But then, from ahead, a new voice. Real. Clear. "This way," someone shouted. A light flashed. A silhouette, holding a lantern, waved them forward. Not a whisper. Not an echo. A real person. Joel didn't question it. They ran. Bursting through a half-collapsed tunnel, they stumbled into a wide chamber lit by emergency lamps and guarded by reinforced doors. People were there, armed, alert. A woman stepped forward. "Name's Captain Ellis. Welcome to Outpost Greyline." The door slammed shut behind them. Safe. For now. But Mara turned to look behind, into the tunnel that was now silent once more. The voice was still in her head. Theo's voice. "Help me." But this time, it didn't sound like a plea. It sounded like a warning. Captain Ellis didn't smile. She didn't welcome them with warmth or relief. Her first words were sharp, clipped. "Decontamination. Now." Mara, Joel, Iris, and Cody were immediately ushered through a sealed hallway. Jets of scalding steam sprayed from the walls, followed by a chemical mist that burned their throats. 2 guards watched them the whole time, rifles raised but fingers off the trigger, barely. "Standard protocol," Ellis said once they emerged, coughing. "We've had infected evolve in ways we don't fully understand. Some carry spores. Some carry lies." Mara wiped her eyes and stepped forward. "We heard the voice of our missing man. Theo. Down there in the tunnels. But it wasn't him." Ellis gave a grim nod. "They've been doing that more often. Mimicking. Copying. Pulling memories from the people they infect." Joel spoke next. "Then Theo is gone," Ellis finished. "At least the man you knew. What's left of him is part of the hive now." The word hit like a stone in Mara's chest. Hive? Ellis led them through the corridors of Outpost Greyline, a fortress carved into the bones of an abandoned military substation beneath the city. Electric lanterns flickered along the walls, and metal gates lined with sharpened steel barred every tunnel entrance. "Come with me. You need to understand what you're up against." They passed survivors, maybe 24, all of them armed, gaunt, but alert. One woman nodded to them. A boy no older than 10 gave Cody a weak smile. This was real. A stronghold that had lasted. Ellis brought them to a map room, where faded blueprints of the underground city were sprawled across a long table. Sections were marked in red. Entire tunnels crossed out. Whole regions labeled compromised. "The creatures you encountered are called Echo Walkers," she explained. "They're not typical infected. Something changed them. Their brains don't fully rot. Instead, they evolve. They remember things." Mara leaned closer. "So they use memories?" Ellis nodded. "Voices. Faces. They lure people by recreating familiarity. But worse, they seem drawn to memory itself. The more someone remembers someone else, the more accurate the mimicry." Joel narrowed his eyes. "Meaning we're helping them, just by missing someone?" "Yes," Ellis said. "And the more you dwell on the dead, the more power you give them." The room fell into silence. Cody looked like he wanted to disappear. "They got Theo because of me," he muttered. "No," Iris said firmly. "They got Theo because he made a choice. Don't dishonor it by blaming yourself." Ellis nodded to her. "Smart thinking. You keep your emotions locked up here," she tapped her head, "or you won't last." Mara wasn't convinced. "But what do they want? Why mimic us?" Ellis's jaw clenched. "Because something is coming. Something older than just this outbreak." She pulled a file from a drawer. Inside were photographs, not of zombies. Not of gore. But of symbols carved into tunnel walls. Strange spirals. Circles within circles. Repeated endlessly. "We found these in multiple locations," Ellis said. "Including sites miles apart. It's like they're all following the same design." "Rituals?" Iris guessed. Ellis didn't answer. She didn't have to. The group stayed in Outpost Greyline for the next few hours, allowed food, water, even clean clothes. They met some of the other survivors, people who had lost entire communities. Most had once been on the surface but were driven down, like rats forced into a sewer. But none of them had seen Haven Point. "No one's heard of it," Ellis said bluntly. "And I've got runners and scouts from every region of this dead city." Joel looked at Mara. "Then who sent us the message?" She didn't answer right away. Because deep down, something twisted inside her stomach. A question she hadn't let herself ask until now. What if Haven Point was the trap from the beginning? That night, Mara couldn't sleep. Cody lay nearby, curled up under a thermal blanket. Joel kept watch at the door. Iris sat across the room, sharpening her knife slowly. Mara found herself staring at the ceiling, listening to the soft hum of the generators. Then came a whisper. Not in the tunnels. Inside her mind. He's not gone. Her breath caught. She sat up, looked around. No one else stirred. Then again. Come to me. This wasn't like the voices in the tunnels. This was personal. Like it knew her. She clutched her pendant, an old silver coin Theo had given her long ago. The voice coiled tighter around her thoughts. You remember him. You bring him closer. You are the door. Mara stood, shaking. She stumbled toward the map room. The blueprints lay untouched, but something new had been drawn on the wall. A symbol. A spiral. And beneath it, a message scrawled in charcoal. Memory is the infection. The spiral symbol haunted Mara through the night. She stood alone in the map room, eyes locked on the message beneath it. Memory is the infection. The charcoal lines looked freshly drawn, still smudged at the edges, as if someone had written them moments ago. But no footsteps led in or out. The cameras above the hallway blinked steadily, recording nothing but silence. When Captain Ellis arrived minutes later, she wasn't surprised. I figured it would come to you next, she said. It always does. The more you lose, the more they find you. Mara turned to her. What does it mean? Ellis exhaled slowly. That the creatures outside these walls aren't just using memory. They're feeding on it. Literally. Feeding? Mara echoed. How? Ellis tapped the spiral. It's not just a symbol. It's a map. A pattern they imprint into minds. They leave it behind like a virus. And if it stays long enough, it grows in your head. Until it becomes a voice, then a shadow, then, a door. A door to what? Ellis hesitated. That, she said, we haven't survived long enough to find out. By morning, the spiral had appeared again, this time on the wall near Cody's bunk. The boy sat staring at it, eyes glazed. I didn't draw it, he said softly, not looking away. I just dreamed it. Joel didn't like any of this. If this is inside our heads, then how do we stop it? You don't, Ellis said. You block it. You contain it. How? Iris asked. Ellis opened a drawer and pulled out a stack of tattered old photos. People. Survivors. Faces crossed out with thick black XS. These are the ones who heard the whispers. The ones who couldn't let go of the dead. They didn't turn like the infected. But they changed. Became something else. Obsessed with the past. With them. She slid the photos across the table. We called them the Hollowed. Mara stared at the images. Each face looked human, but off. Blank stares. Faint smiles. Eyes that seemed just, gone. So what happened to them? Joel asked. Ellis didn't flinch. We didn't let them leave. You killed them? Iris said sharply. Ellis didn't respond. She didn't have to. Mara slammed her hand on the table. There's got to be another way. We came here to survive, not turn into monsters. You're already halfway there, Ellis said. If you're seeing the spiral, you're compromised. Mara took a deep breath. Then tell me what we can do. Anything. Ellis finally sat down. For the first time, her tone softened. There's one location left. We call it the core. It's beneath the city, under the power grid that used to fuel half the region. We think it's where the spiral originated. If anything can stop what's happening, it's there. Then why haven't you gone? Joel asked. We did, she said. Once. Only 2 came back. One of them cut out his own eyes. The other vanished 3 days later. No one spoke for a long time. But the choice was becoming clearer with every whisper, every hallucination. The voice in Mara's head was louder now. Not constant, but steady. Comforting, even. Like Theo was really there. Apologizing. Reaching for her. Making promises. Stop listening to it, Iris told her quietly. I'm trying, Mara whispered. But it feels like him. That's what makes it so dangerous. That evening, the group sat around a table, weapons laid out, maps open. Ellis leaned over the map of the underground city. The core sits below the floodplain tunnel system. No one's used it in years. That whole section is unstable. It was sealed off before the outbreak even began. Mara traced the path with her finger. Can we even get there? We'll need to cut through 3 sealed checkpoints, Joel said. We don't have clearance. Ellis tossed a rusted access card onto the table. You do now. But listen, this isn't a mission. It's a death sentence. You step through those tunnels, you may not come back. Mara looked at Cody. The kid had survived more than most adults. But he deserved a chance to live, not just exist in fear behind a wall. If this is how we end it, she said, then it's worth the risk. Iris nodded. I'm in. Joel grunted. Wouldn't let you walk into hell without backup. Ellis gave them each a grim look. If you feel the spiral growing stronger, if the voice takes hold, don't wait. End it yourself. That's the only mercy left. Mara tightened her grip on her weapon. They left that night. Through the north tunnel. Past the last gate. Outpost Greyline vanished behind them. The spiral waited ahead. The last gate slammed shut behind them. No going back. Mara, Joel, Iris, and Cody walked in silence, their headlamps casting narrow beams down the tunnel. Rusted pipes hissed along the walls. The air grew damp and heavy, thick with mildew and rot. And somewhere far below, something groaned, not mechanical, not human, but alive. This doesn't feel like just a tunnel, Joel muttered, hand on his rifle. Feels like it's swallowing us. They'd been underground before, hundreds of feet deep in bunkers and railways. But this was different. The deeper they went, the more wrong things felt. Gravity seemed heavier. Their steps grew slower. Time itself began to blur. How long since we left Greyline? Iris asked. About an hour, Mara said. Cody checked the watch strapped to his wrist. It's been 5, he whispered. They paused. That couldn't be possible. And yet, none of them could be sure. The tunnel bent sharply, then descended into a massive chasm, bridged only by a series of rusted steel walkways. Beneath them, black water stretched out forever, no bottom, no reflection, only ripples that didn't match their steps. In the distance, faint lights pulsed in the dark. Not electricity. Symbols. The spirals. Etched into stone. Into steel. Into the air itself. They're not just drawings, Iris whispered. They're patterns. They're instructions. For what? Joel asked. To change us, she said. To prepare us. They reached the end of the walkway and came to a sealed vault door, half sunken into a collapsed wall. It had once required a key code. Now, it stood slightly ajar, broken open from the inside. Joel raised his rifle. Weapons up. Stay tight. They moved in. Beyond the vault, the structure changed. No longer tunnels or military concrete, but something older. Carved walls. Black stone. Markings in languages no one had spoken in centuries. The further they moved, the less the place resembled anything human. And then, they found it. A vast chamber. Circular. Covered floor to ceiling in spirals, circles, looping symbols that made no sense unless you stared at them too long, then they started to move. Pulse. Sync with your breath. With your thoughts. At the center of the room stood a massive column of twisted, fossil-like bone, reaching from floor to ceiling, covered in veins of red light pulsing like a heartbeat. Cody froze. "I've seen this before," he said. Joel turned sharply. "Where?" "In my dreams," Cody whispered. "Since the first time I saw them. The undead. They stand around it. Worship it." Mara stared at the bone-like structure. "Is this the source?" Iris stepped closer, tracing one of the spiral carvings. "This isn't a virus," she said. "It never was. It's a signal. A call from something that's been sleeping." Then, the chamber spoke. Not with sound. But with memory. Flashes of the past flooded their minds, people they'd lost, moments they'd buried. Theo's face. Cody's parents. Iris's brother. Joel's child. Each vision came with emotion so vivid, it forced them to their knees. And over it all, the voice. "You remember. You bring us closer. You are the thread between death and thought." Mara clenched her fists. "Get out of my head." But the voice didn't stop. "You gave us form. You called us from the dark when you couldn't let go." Joel gasped. We made this?" Cody looked up at them. "Is that why it mimics? Why it echoes people? It's not just feeding, it's learning. You made the world forget us. Now we make sure you never forget again." Iris pulled her knife. "We can't let this thing live." Mara stared at the red-veined column. "If this is where the infection began, maybe we can end it." She raised her shotgun. But the column opened its eyes. 4 of them. Each shaped like a spiral. Each staring into their souls. Cody screamed. "It's awake." The floor cracked. A wave of black, sinewed mass slithered from the walls, forming limbs, mouths, voices. They didn't charge, they sang. Voices of loved ones. Begging. Laughing. Pleading. Joel dropped his gun. No, my son, he's alive." Mara grabbed his shoulder. "It's not real." "It feels real," he shouted, eyes wet, falling to his knees. The symbols on the walls glowed brighter. The room pulsed. The entity in the center began to rise, no longer stone, but muscle, memory, hate. Mara raised her weapon again. "Cody," she said through gritted teeth. "Close your eyes. Iris, aim for the root veins. Joel, fight it." Joel shook, tears falling, but nodded. They fired. Bullets struck the glowing core. The walls shook. Screams turned into static. The spirals flickered. Blood-like fluid poured from the eyes in the column. But the voice didn't die. "You carry us with you. You are already part of the spiral." The structure collapsed inward, and the chamber roared in fury. A wave of heat blasted through them, and then silence. Just the 4 of them, coughing in the dark. The light from their headlamps flickered back on. The spirals were gone. And the voice? Quiet. For now. The silence after the core's collapse was almost unbearable. Mara stood in the wreckage, hands trembling, staring at the shattered remains of the bone column. The glowing red veins had gone dark. The walls were no longer pulsing. No more whispers in her mind. Just the distant drip of water. And her own ragged breathing. Joel slumped against a fractured wall, his face pale but alert. Is it dead? I don't know, Mara said. But it stopped. Cody sat nearby, his head buried in his arms, still shaken. He hadn't spoken since the spiral-eyed thing collapsed. The way it looked at them, it wasn't rage. It had been recognition. Iris knelt beside him. You did good, Cody. You fought it. He didn't look up. It's not gone. I can still feel it. It's quieter, but it's there. Like it's waiting. Joel nodded grimly. Yeah. Like an echo that hasn't faded yet. The group knew they couldn't stay. The air was wrong down here now, heavier, like the space around them was collapsing inward. Whatever they'd done may have wounded the thing, but it hadn't killed it. They made their way back through the ruined tunnels, the spiral symbols burned out from the walls, leaving only black scorch marks behind. Mara's headlamp flickered as they reached the old steel walkway. The black water below was still, finally. No more ripples. No more reflections of people who weren't there. But the deeper they moved back toward the surface, the more each of them began to notice it, not voices, not visions, but emptiness. The core had taken something with it. Their memories were fading. I can't remember my brother's voice, Iris whispered. Joel frowned. My son. I used to see his face every night. It's gone now. Blurred out. Mara stopped walking. The price, she said aloud. The spiral fed on memory. We destroyed it, and it took part of us down with it. Cody looked terrified. So are we forgetting everything? Mara closed her eyes. No. Not everything. Just the ones it touched. The ones we held onto too tightly. Silence. Maybe that was the cost. Maybe that was the only way to beat it. Let go, not because you wanted to, but because survival demanded it. They emerged hours later, climbing through a maintenance shaft that led to the edge of Outpost Greyline. It was night. The stars above blinked against the sky like they always had. But everything felt changed. Ellis was waiting at the gate with her team. When she saw their faces, alive, hollow, exhausted, she said nothing. Just opened the gate and let them in. Inside, the outpost was quieter than before. A few survivors gathered to hear what happened. Ellis listened to every word as Mara explained what they saw, the spirals, the entity, the mimicry of memory, the collapse. When Mara finished, Ellis stepped forward. And you think it's over? No, Mara said. But it's wounded. We hit its heart. Joel added, it can't mimic anymore. Not like before. But something tells me it's not gone, Iris said. It'll come back. Different. Maybe smarter. Ellis nodded slowly. Then we prepare. For the next 2 days, the survivors rested. Healed. Rebuilt. But something else happened, too. The walls that once bore the spiral carvings remained blank. The whispers stopped. But in the quiet, Mara noticed the change. People no longer spoke of the dead. Faces once displayed on memorial boards were taken down, names scratched off. Memories were being erased. By choice. Or by something else. Mara sat alone by the edge of the outpost one morning, watching the sunrise over the ruined city skyline. Cody joined her, holding a worn notebook. What's that? She asked. He opened it. Drawings. Of faces. Of people. Of moments. He was sketching what he could remember before it disappeared forever. I don't want to forget, he said. Even if it hurts. Mara looked at the boy. And then at the city beyond. Maybe that was the point. Memory made them human. It was dangerous, yes, the spiral had used it. But it was also beautiful. I'll help you, she said. We'll write it down. Every name. Every face. We won't let the spiral take everything. Back in the outpost, survivors gathered around the fire. Mara stood with Joel and Iris. Cody clutched his notebook. We fought back, Mara said to the group. We lost people. We lost pieces of ourselves. But we're still here. We remember enough to rebuild, Joel added. And when it comes again, Iris said, we'll be ready. A distant thunder rolled in the sky. Not rain. Not bombs. Just nature, finally returning to a world interrupted. For now, the spiral was silent. But deep beneath the city, something still pulsed in the dark, waiting, watching, learning. Because even when the undead fall, memory never stays buried for long. End of Part 8. Let me know if you'd like a cinematic thumbnail image prompt or YouTube title/description to go with your audiobook release.